Hello lovely people, it's Nicola back in the Stitches and Slapdashery sewing room. I still have a little bit of a deep voice because this virus still has not gone from my chest and I'm still coughing. However, it's the weekend and I wanted to do something creative because it's been a long week, too much working and not enough fun. So I hope you enjoy seeing what I'm making. And thanks for watching. Today I'm having another little play with some scraps. I've cut a piece of cheapy batting. It's a synthetic one. I think I got it very cheap or free when I was working at Fabricland. It's about 17 inches square, so I'm just going to make a big piece and then I'm going to cut it into squares and make a box. So I've got some blues and purples from the scrap bags. I also have my 2 quilt cotton bins with blues and purples in here in case I need to supplement with different things, in case this is just not enough variety. I'm not sure which tool I'm going to use, but this is the tool I bought a few weeks ago from Fabricland when it was on sale for $2 a meter, which is always the best time to buy it. And I'll either use purple or blue, but I'll audition them over top of the scraps when I got that built up. I'm going to use some 505 temporary adhesive spray again. I had a rather concerned citizen saying something about using it in a well-ventilated space recently. Don't worry, I have my window open in my sewing room just up there. And it's just going to be a really quick squirt, and I promise not to inhale. So I'm going to start building the fabric. I'm not sure exactly how yet. Just going to build it up as I see fit. I think smaller pieces are probably more desirable than larger pieces because the more variety, the better. So let's get going. that's all my scraps laid out. Now, I know that I'm going to be speeding that part of the filming up and also putting some music over it. Because I have the window open, there's a few neighborhood noises which are intruding here. It sounded like there were a couple of dogs out there having a very violent disagreement just now, so just be glad you didn't have to listen to that. Okay, let's have a look at which of the tulle colours looks best. Let's just make sure I've got a single layer here. This is such fine stuff, I can't even see where the edge is properly. Here we go. So this would be my purple, and obviously it's going to look a little different once I've done all my stitching as well. I like the look of that. That would be the purple. And then with the royal blue, it would look like that. Probably not a huge amount of difference. Let's put them side by side so I can think about it. Purple, blue. I think with the blue it would look a little brighter and maybe a little duller with the purple. I think I'm going with the blue. So I'm just going to roughly cut a piece of blue to fit over here. I think I'll overlap it by about an inch around, because when I do the sewing it might shift or shrink. Now before I go and pin my tulle and my batting layer completely, I need to decide whether I'm going to put my backing on and then do my free motion quilting all together, or whether I want to do the free motion quilting and then back it afterwards. I think it would be neater or easier if I did it all in one go with all the layers, because once I've finished my item that I'm making, I don't mind seeing the stitching on the lining at all. I think that'll look fine. So yeah, before I carry on pinning, I need to figure out what I'm using for my lining. All right, it's time to bring in the sewing machine. So let's do a little bit of cleanup around here. I'm going to go with a royal blue thread, Gutermann thread, because I like the quality. I have have a little bit on this bobbin. I probably should start with a full bobbin, but I'm just going to use up what's on here first. So I may end up having to stop and start halfway through this part. I'm going to put a sharps needle in. I've got these Class A sharp needles in assorted sizes. I'm putting a 70 in there. Nice brand new needle. Because right now I have a 90 in here, and I think that'll be overkill. And it'll punch big holes in my work. I'm also changing out my walking foot. Putting the darning foot in. And I will also have to drop my feed dogs so that I can free motion quilt. I'm no expert on this, but I've done a couple of these before, and I've done one where I did a sort of a pebble effect where I was doing closed circles and then moving on to that more closed circle and so on. And then I did another one which was more like stippling, which is just a really wavy line but never crossing itself. And I preferred the pebbly look. So we're going to go with the pebbly look again today. I probably should start, in theory, I should probably start in the middle to allow for things to sort of sit nicely, but I think I'm going to go from the edge, and hopefully I've got enough thread in there to do the whole thing without stopping. But if not, we'll worry about that when the time comes. We'll get the quilting gloves on, so I've got the little non-slip grips on. I'll get this started, and then I'll tip you down so that you can see what I'm actually doing. So here's what my fabric looks like now. The tulle and the stitching kind of blend the colours a bit. You can see how it looks from the back. Not perfect, but I think it's kind of pretty. The next step is to cut it into 6 squares. Now, I made enough of this fabric that I should have extra to do something else with. But the plan was to have enough to cut 6 4-inch squares to make a cube-shaped box. I'm just going to go and do that now. My original plan was going to be cut my squares at 4 inches, but that would have made a very teeny tiny box, so I decided to go for 4.5 inches. So this is what my 6 squares look like. I have a couple of little rectangles offcuts there, and I still have this whole chunk to use for something else. And I have an idea for that. I want to make a cylindrical container at some point. So that would be cool. So I will definitely be using that for something fun. Now, I think what I'd like to do is use this sashiko thread to join my pieces together. And I've probably just made a tangle of it already. I know that there's a special way to open up sashiko thread and kind of braid it so that you don't tangle it like crazy. Whoops. I think this was a special sashiko needle that I bought years ago as well, so I'm going to try with that. Now let's see, which do I like best for my lid? Because that's going to be the most visible part of this. I rather like this because there's quite a bit of gold in there and quite a lot of variety. This is fun too. I think this one's going to be my lid, so I'll just put that one aside for now, and then I will start putting these together. So I'm going to put them wrong sides together. And then just whip stitch them down the side here. So far, so good. My cube is done. I have picked out a rather lovely button which has this sort of hard to describe. There's a shiny purpley part in it which I think will look really nice on there. So let's just pop that on, and then I'm going to have to figure out a button loop for that. I ended up seaming the pieces together and also seaming around the lid and the top of the box so that it was not raw. One of the things I think I'd like to try is getting some RIT dye and dyeing the batting. I would have to get the dye more for synthetics if I was going to use the polyester batting, or I could use cotton batting and use the regular RIT. But I really think it would look pretty if I had no white showing. So either get some fuchsia or some purple or some turquoise or all three, and practice dyeing some batting. I think that would be a lot of fun and it would give it an even better result. I've tried to keep the knot underneath the button at the front so that it's not showing inside too much. So I am thinking maybe a small piece of ripped fabric would be nice, because that way it would show as, you know, it would be in keeping with the rest of the thing. Let's see. See if I can rip a strip off this. Well, that went very, very fuzzy. Looks like a millipede. Let's see, how would that look if I was to do this and attach it to there, and then I could just sort of tie it around the button to do it up. Let's give that a go. I think this might need to have a bit of a haircut. It's looking a little bit crazy. There we go. There's my fancy schmancy cube. Let's just see how this does up. Make sure it works. Ta-da! That would make a neat little gift box for something special, wouldn't it? What do you think? Feel free to leave some comments in the comment section under the video, and hit a like button. And next time I will be playing with this thing and making another container of some kind. And what I have left.